Seneca once said, "Nothing to my way of thinking is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and spend some time in his own company." You're one of those amazing people who are always ready to help others, which is something very nice and not always common these days. However, it's crucial to understand that in some situations, even with all your desire to help, you can't change someone's situation, especially when they don't show any interest or ability to change. No matter how much you try to help, if they don't really want to change, things won't change. Before you put your time and energy into issues that may not have immediate solutions, it's essential that you keep following this video, because in it, we'll explore ways of identifying signs that indicate your efforts may be falling flat. We're going to talk about the behavior of 8 different types of people, each with their own individual reasons, which may contribute to them not being worthy of your help. In some cases, it's important to understand that these people may be going through experiences in which they need to deal with the situation on their own, so that they can mature and become better people. Before moving on to number 1, make sure you're already subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any life-changing knowledge. Number 1, people who believe that the world owes them something. Those who think that the world owes them something have a mentality that focuses only on themselves and is not connected to reality. These people believe that they are special just for existing. Stoics say that it's important to live in balance with nature and recognize that we depend on each other, rather than seeking benefits or rewards that we don't deserve. For them, we deserve something based on our merit. These people often attract the attention of naive people who genuinely want to help them see reality, seeking their good. However, unfortunately, these people may not perceive this as a kind gesture and instead may see it as a threat, or insist that just because they are attractive, others should serve them. This ends up making it difficult for those who want to help, while the other person continues to use the help whenever they can. If these people think that others should do more for them than simply be kind, they also show that they are a bit narcissistic and get hurt easily. So if someone hurts them, especially people who have helped them before, they will certainly play an emotional game with others. An effective way of showing these people that they are just like the rest of us is when the people around them no longer accept the superior behavior they display. When these people experience unfair and offensive treatment, similar to what they may have given to others, they may realize the need to change their attitude. This reflective moment acts as a mirror, reflecting back the consequences of their actions, encouraging a deeper understanding of the importance of a respectful attitude. It is crucial to emphasize that it is not your responsibility or anyone else's to teach them to change completely. Each person is responsible for their own behavior and personal growth. While society can provide an environment where the natural consequences of attitudes manifest themselves, the change must come from them. By creating an environment that naturally promotes an understanding of equality, the focus shifts from the arduous task of teaching to creating conditions that favor self-reflection and the acceptance of equality among all. Number 2, people who believe they are never the problem. People who blame others instead of reflecting on themselves ignore the Stoic principle that we can only influence our responses and attitudes to circumstances, not the circumstances themselves. It is crucial to take responsibility for our reactions, as this is fundamental to maintaining emotional balance and promoting personal growth, as the Stoics teach. If we can't control ourselves, our mind will dominate us and leave us confused. Now imagine what it would be like to help someone who is totally convinced that all their problems with the world are exclusively the world's fault, and who doesn't recognize their internal problems. We're talking about those who can't see their own faults and defects. This person will never try to improve themselves because they don't think they need to. Whether they're conceited or innocent, it's never their fault, but the fault of others. If they don't have many friends, they think people are too unfriendly or elitist. If she can't stay healthy, she blames the price of natural and healthy food. If you don't pass job interviews, you create a whole narrative that the interviewer sabotaged you. If you have to pay to see a movie or series, you blame the price of cinemas, and so on. If you still want to help, the best way is to let real life teach them some hard lessons. Foolish people will, in time, see who's wrong. Number 3, people who only live in the present. How would you feel to see someone you love wasting their talent without being able to do anything about it? Dealing with this situation can be disconcerting when you try to show them that life is passing before their eyes, but nothing seems to motivate them. You believe that they have the potential to achieve more than they are demanding of themselves. While we recognize the importance of living in the present moment, we also understand that it is crucial to make plans for the future. The present is the action that creates the path to the desired future. True fulfillment occurs when we use our natural and learned abilities to progress and improve our lives. The dilemma for people with limited vision lies not in their lack of talent, but in their inability to visualize how to apply it. Therefore, helping them doesn't just mean teaching them new skills, as these people often already have mastery over several of them. The way to help these people would be to encourage them to put the knowledge they already have into practice. Sometimes, all this person needs is to take the first step and act. They are already aware of what needs to be done and the potential that awaits them beyond their beliefs. Unfortunately, cowardice or laziness in acting for themselves, driven by the belief that there will always be someone willing to help them in difficult times, prevents you from planting the seeds of progress in them. This attitude doesn't allow them to evolve and reach a better place, going against the Stoic teaching that seeking a better life and fighting for it is a sign of virtue. Number 4, people who take advantage. Doing good to others is a very beautiful way of showing empathy, coming from our special ability as human beings to understand how others feel by imagining what it would be like to be in their shoes. The Stoics, who were people who had a special way of seeing the world without judgment, used empathy as an important tool. When we look at the world through the eyes of others, we can understand their sorrows, worries, and fears, and so we feel like helping to lighten their load. Unfortunately, there are people who exploit this quality to benefit themselves. They see helpless people and pretend to be friends, getting close only to take advantage of them later. How can we recognize them? Look at the way they approach life. While most of your friends only ask for help when they really need it, someone who is opportunistic will often ask for favors, even when they could do things themselves, just to avoid the work or hassle. The trick is in how they make you feel firsthand. They might say something like, "You're such a good friend, could you help me with this favor?" There's nothing wrong with asking for a favor once in a while when you need help, but this type of person will take full advantage of you, even if they could do it. They show no understanding for the time and effort of others. What makes this all the more sad and contradictory is that even though you may not want to help them, you may have already agreed to help on more than one occasion. Even if you've promised yourself that you won't help again, the emotional manipulation they use is so strong that in the end, you give in. They are experts at playing the victim to make you feel selfish if you refuse to help, when in fact they are the real selfish ones. It's true that we often offer help to people in complicated situations, and yet some of them don't seem to change because they're convinced they're doing the right thing. The question then arises, why make an effort to improve if there is someone willing to take responsibility for it? With this in mind, we propose a reflection on the importance of also taking care of yourself. This includes the thoughtful decision to distance yourself from these people without carrying the burden of guilt. It's essential to remember that we don't have an obligation to solve other people's problems, but rather to look after our own well-being and fulfill our commitments. Number 5, people who hide in self-deception. Sometimes, some people have a habit of deceiving themselves, which goes against the Stoic value of being honest with yourself and seeking to know yourself better. It's as if they were trying to hide something unpleasant under a big rug. The Stoics, instead of deluding themselves, encourage sincerity and openly confronting our weaknesses as a way of improving and growing as a person. The main problem with these people is that they construct a distorted version of reality. Their ideas are so altered that they think the facts are exactly as they see them, and not as other people tell them. They don't realize that our brain doesn't always tell the right story, since it interprets the world according to what we think, not necessarily how things really are. Most of the time, these people don't have bad intentions. They're just stuck in the habit of deceiving themselves. Perhaps a long time ago, during their childhood or adolescence full of challenges growing up, they began to see things this way out of a desire to be accepted by social groups. These difficult experiences forced them to create their own reality as a way of protecting themselves emotionally. However, no matter how much you want to help, you will face difficulties because the barrier they have created over this vision is too great. You will approach them and try to show them that the sky is blue, not green, but they will refuse to accept it, putting forward arguments based on logic that doesn't make any sense. Even when you point to the sky so that they can see the color, they will find ways to justify that the reality is different. The only really effective way to help them is when they recognize that they have a problem, although this is unlikely to happen without the assistance of a highly qualified psychological professional. Today, we can see that this dynamic is very similar to the political debates that often take place in society. People often engage in denials and confrontations, fervently defending their perspectives, even when their arguments are logically flawed and meaningless. This phenomenon sometimes leads to situations in which individuals contradict each other, but persist in the unshakable belief that their message is absolutely correct. This attitude reflects not only the conflict of ideas, but also the human tendency to cling to convictions, often even in the face of contrary evidence. Understanding this complexity in debates and everyday interactions is fundamental to developing a critical and reflective capacity in the face of different points of view, contributing to a more constructive and respectful dialogue in our society. Otherwise, you'll fall into bad arguments that will bring even more negative energy, and you'll get into a loop. Anxiety is one of the worst diseases today, leaving millions of people paralyzed by it. If you want to overcome anxiety as the Stoics did, I've left a link in the first comment to help you overcome it as the Stoics did. Number 6. People who can only see their own navel. These people have a habit of thinking only of themselves. They think the world revolves around them and always blame others for everything that happens. Have you ever been in a situation like this? For example, you comment to a friend that the weather in the city where you live is getting worse, and he replies that it's not true because he's never had any problems. Or you share your happiness at having got a new job, but when he speaks, he dominates the conversation, expressing how terrible and bored he feels in his own job. He seems to absorb all your joy, dumping his sadness on you, letting you down every time you want to share good news. From that moment on, the attention that was gradually turning to you is taken over by your friend, who takes control of the conversation. Now, the main subject is how he feels. It seems that your opinion and well-being become less important. Would you be willing to support someone who isn't interested in taking into account anything other than their own immediate interests? If the answer is yes, do you show enough confidence in yourself to challenge them to abandon this self-centered behavior and understand the importance of showing a real interest in others? Always bear this in mind. If you try to help someone improve but they're not interested, no matter how much you encourage them, they won't progress. In the same way, if you're trying to achieve your goals in life, but the people around you are discouraging you, they can cause you to fall behind. The only way to avoid this is to distance yourself from them. That's what successful people do. If the people around them don't change their mind to something positive, they just leave them behind. Number 7. People who only look at the negative side of life. People who persist in focusing only on the dark aspects of life contrast with the Stoic approach, which values serenity and the ability to face challenges with resilience and gratitude for what we have. Recognizing both the positive and negative aspects of life is essential to keeping a balanced mind. It's natural to face unpleasant situations and express negative emotions such as anger, frustration, and powerlessness. However, this becomes problematic when someone focuses exclusively on the negative aspects, neglecting the good things that life offers. This perspective only makes life darker, preventing us from appreciating the beauties that the world has to offer. There are people who are true masters of this art, and we soon realize that trying to help them is a difficult task. When someone with this negative mindset shares their problems, it's natural to want to offer support. It's human nature to want to help others. However, these people will always find a new problem for every solution we propose. What's more, this toxicity emanates from them in a way that affects our mind, much like turning on the television and seeing news reports full of disasters. When you're almost at the 10th attempt to help, you realize that this person isn't really interested in receiving help. They prefer to complain and draw attention to themselves. It would be almost disastrous for them if a genie from the lamp appeared and solved all their problems with the snap of a finger, because they would lose all the complicated problems and excuses they like to carry around with them. It's as if these people love to talk about these problems all the time, as if their life revolved around it. There are people who seem to be constantly involved in financial problems, face challenges dealing with their children, show dissatisfaction with their partner's absence, and their work is frustrating. The question arises, can you help someone who has this mentality? Is a person who constantly complains willing to receive help? We recommend a cautious approach, suggesting that unless you are prepared to see your energy dissipate like water between your fingers, avoid trying to help someone who is not open to it. The suggestion is to allow these people to walk their own path, trusting in the power of time to change them. As the days go by, they may find ways to become less negative and fatalistic. In the meantime, it is advisable to focus your energies on those who truly need advice and help to progress. By adopting this approach, you minimize the risk of absorbing the pessimism of those you have tried to help while preserving your own positive outlook. Number 8. People who take no responsibility. People who avoid taking responsibility show a lack of self-analysis and humility, attributes considered essential by the Stoics for personal and moral development. This type of person is one who rarely admits their mistakes. They always say they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Instead of pointing the finger at others, it is essential that they learn to take responsibility for their choices and grow from their mistakes. Not only do these people act without thinking, but they also act without considering the impact their actions have on the world around them. If something goes wrong, they will blame external circumstances rather than themselves. They believe that what they do has no impact on others, or even worse, they simply don't care, because it has no consequences for themselves. The truth is that helping them is very difficult, as they are rarely willing to admit responsibility for their actions. For these people, if something goes wrong because of what they have done or failed to do, it is always other people's fault, and they will find ways to avoid any involvement in events. The phrase, "It's not my fault," is what you hear most often coming out of their mouths. If you believe that you can guide these people towards a path of improvement through humility, unfortunately, you will be investing your time in vain. What happens when they fail to achieve their goals? They quickly find excuses and point the finger, blaming others. They always have an explanation that doesn't involve admitting fault. If they don't succeed in an exam, they blame the teacher or the content. If they crash their car, they blame the rain that got in the way. And if they have a messy house, they blame the work that keeps them busy all day. Do you think it's possible to help someone who never recognizes their mistakes? My suggestion is that you give up, because by trying to help them, you run the risk of becoming the scapegoat. And they won't progress as human beings, since they haven't been brought up properly. If you make an effort to show them a different point of view, and they continue to resist, don't worry about wasting your time. These people have a tendency to complain constantly and drag other people into the same problem. It's best to get away from them while you still can. The teachings of the Stoics tell us to live in balance with nature, cultivate valuable relationships, and take responsibility for our actions, thus seeking a full and meaningful life. By embodying these values, we can move towards a virtuous existence in harmony with the world around us. But in order to maintain this, we have to be very conscious of not maintaining bad things that harm our health and development. The Stoics were very aware of 11 things that they should eliminate from their life. Click on the video on the screen and see what these habits were.